Hey everybody, welcome to Life Groups for another week. Author Rich Anthony tells this story about a wealthy businessman who was horrified to see a fisherman sitting beside his boat playing with a small child. "Why aren't you out fishing?" asked the businessman. "Because I caught enough fish for one day," replied the fisherman. "Why don't you catch some more?" "Well, what would I do with him?" the fisherman said. "Well, you could earn more money," said the businessman. "Then with the extra money, you could buy a bigger boat, go into deeper waters, and catch more fish. Then you'd make enough money to buy nylon nets, and with those nets, you could catch even more fish and make even more money. And with that money, you could own 2 boats, maybe 3 or 4 boats, and eventually you could have a whole fleet of boats and be rich like me." "Well, then what would I do?" asked the fisherman. "Well, then," said the fisherman, or the businessman, "you could really enjoy life." The fisherman looked at the businessman and quizzically asked, "What do you think I'm doing now?" Now, we've talked about contentment this last weekend. And which of these two men were content? Well, obviously the fisherman. Have you ever heard of the 99er Club? The 99er Club is a club whose members are those who have almost everything anybody could ever desire, and yet they still want to get the one more thing so they can have it all, only to realize that's not even possible. But even if it was, it still wouldn't bring them fulfillment. Now this week, contentment may have been a hard one for you to hear. I know I did a self-evaluation on my own contentment, and we talked about contentment with things, like material things. We also talked about contentment with situations, and there are people who are content with their possessions, but they're always looking for greener pastures with a job or with living in a different place, or all of those temptations of the world. So something interesting that stood out to me as I was doing this preparation for this sermon is I did a Google search, and I just wanted to look up articles on discontentment. And what I realized is almost every single article that I found on discontentment was written by a Christian organization or a Christian writer. So why is this? Well, it's because the world doesn't see discontentment as an issue. They don't see it as a problem at all. So today in our life groups, we're going to be talking about contentment and going to be looking at what Jesus said about contentment and earthly gain. And I'm going to have you encourage each other to be content. So we've included some questions, as we always do. You're going to be reading in Mark chapter 8. You're going to be talking about that, talking about what role comparison has in discontentment. We're going to go back to Philippians that we were in the other day in church, in Philippians 4, and we're going to talk about that passage again, and even some strategies to battle discontentment in our own lives. So it's a great opportunity for you to get to know each other a little bit more this week. We've heard great things about how life groups are going, and we're so thrilled that you're part of one. So enjoy this today, be real with each other, and we'll be back with you again next week.